Oh, that's cool. But what is cool is that you guys have a public holiday for the daylight savings in the States.
We call this Adelaide Cup Day. So there's like a horse race going on today, which I don't really care about. Um, so yeah, we just have a day off to watch some horses race. It happens. I don't know if you've ever heard of like Melbourne Cup as well. It's
I
like
think I've heard of
just
it.
yeah, it's just a big day to race horses and all that kind of crap. I mean, I don't watch it, but I guess a lot of people do and put a lot of money on it and bet on it and whatnot. But for me, no, I didn't know it was actually your daylight savings changed today. So that's ours is coming in a couple of weeks.
I didn't know until like the last, maybe yesterday or
Mm.
something, or this morning. But yeah, dude, now it's not gonna get light here until like almost 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, it's pretty dark here still this morning. Like usually at about 7 o'clock, the sun's up and about, but it still hasn't really come up much. Just looking outside now, like there's not much sun, but it will change eventually. Like because usually at nighttime, the sun's still up until like 8:30 p.m. and then now it's going to get darker like 5 o'clock when daylight savings starts coming around. So I think that's in a couple of months. I think, but I'm a big fan of no daylight savings, man. To be honest, just let the clock run, let it ride. Huberman was talking about it actually being like around daylight savings time when people lose the hour of sleep, heart attacks significantly increase because like you're losing that hour of sleep and people's bodies just don't deal with the loss of sleep as well as you're obviously gaining an hour of sleep. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I've heard that whichever day you get an extra hour of sleep, which I don't think was this one, is like the least car crashes, the least heart attacks, the least all of these things because people just got an extra hour of sleep,
Hmm.
which I mean that says something.
Makes sense. There's a value of sleep for you. Like you're not getting enough sleep, you're crashing a car. which I guess that's going to be me in a couple of weeks. I can tell you that much. I don't know how I'm going to be on the podcast, but I'm already getting everyone tell me make sure you get enough sleep, man. Get enough sleep because we've got the baby coming. You're going to sleep. Get the sleep now. Blah blah blah. It's like I can't sleep now as it is. But I don't know why. I just can't sleep, and so I'm already behind. But one of my friends was telling me that supposedly in the baby's first year of their life, adults lose up to 6 months of sleep. I'm like, oh, wow, that's going to be great. I'm already at zero. I'm going to be at minus zero. It's going to be interesting to see. I wonder how, like, let's think about professional athletes, for example. How would they deal with something like that? Like, obviously, they're not spending as much time um, as your normal person taking care of their baby or of their child. And they obviously want to spend time with their children, I would assume. But how could they do it? Like with no sleep, professional environment, they would need to be monitored and all that kind of stuff. Like it'd be next level.
I don't I don't know. I mean, it might be like some teams have all their players stay in a hotel the night before the game, so they might just like be like whacked out during the week, and then they get to go sleep in a hotel the night before the game, and just they get all the sleep they need then, and then they can play all right. Or I really don't know because it's like some people are just freaks and they don't need that much sleep, and maybe they'll be all right. But um, I don't know how that works. Like if they just hire somebody, I don't know if you can hire somebody overnight to just deal with it, but I have no idea.
Like,
Yeah,
what's your sleep like?
I need more sleep than you do. Like I know you're like a 6 hour guy and you're doing all right. I've been averaging a little under 8 for the last week or so, and it has been not a great thing. Like
Mm,
I'm firmly like an 8 to 9, closer to 9 hour guy. And I don't know why, but it's just I need I've always needed more than pretty much everybody else I've known for some reason.
maybe it's because you're so young. Like they say, the younger you are, the more sleep that you need. But when you get older, you can you can go off of less sleep. So maybe that could be the reason why, I'm so old. So I can actually do well on the 6 hours, 6, 7 hours, as long as I close my eyes. Even this is going to be a big test, like for me with the little one coming. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be up all night and just having like these little power naps every now and again. And it'll be interesting, like whether I actually can make it through or not. But I think that I'll be fine. Like maybe not fine, but I'll do well enough to be able to make it through the day. Which it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, sleep wise for me, I was like you when I was a lot younger. So like when I was in my teens, I had to sleep. If I didn't sleep, forget about it. I would be waking up in the morning like, oh my gosh, I don't want to move, can't move, just can't be bothered. I was just really, really tired. But then like I've been up for 2 and a bit hours now already. It's 7:15 in the morning, so just up at 5. But usually it's 4:30, 5 o'clock. Bed at 9:30. Away we go, and then I'm good for the day. No need for a nap. No need for nothing. Just smash it on through. So it's interesting though. You need so much sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I even need like significantly more sleep than people my age. Like it was even like in college with like the rest of my roommates needed about the same amount of sleep, and they were closer to where you are. It's like 7 hours was fine. I was like, dude, I have to go to bed now because we have a game tomorrow, and like if I get 7 hours, I'm going to play horribly.
What time do you go to bed? Like, are you a early sleeper? Sorry, and late riser?
It's I don't know. I like 10 to 11 to 7 is usually a pretty good time, but I have a hard time getting myself to bed earlier, so it's usually closer to like 11 to 8 is like what I'll sleep. But I mean, it depends if I set an alarm. Like the last week or so, I've had a 6:50 alarm so I can get up and get some stuff done. So it's been like it's generally been closer to 11 to 7 the last week or so, and I was having a hard time by the end of the week.
You poor thing. Oh, poor little baby.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know if I just like it. I mean, it's like my parents aren't. It's not like my parents sleep for 9 hours every night. Like my parents don't sleep that much. I don't know anybody else sleeps need feel like they absolutely need as much sleep as I do. Maybe I actually don't, and I just feel like I do, but I have no idea.
Mm. Yeah, that's very interesting because so like your grandparents, they're farmers as well. Is that right from memory? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on both sides. Yeah,
So for them, they're up up with the rooster and go to sleep with the
hell, they don't go to sleep. Yeah, is the thing. Just nobody sleeps.
yeah, work ethic. Maybe you just you seriously you put in some yards in the day. Like you're getting a lot of work done in the day. Your brain and your body just needs that rest to recover and recuperate again to go again. Like it could just be simple as that. Like I don't think that there would be much else to it other than like you're a hardworking individual, which I'd like to think that you are, or I'd probably say that you are anyway. So it could just be
Yeah,
that it's that.
yeah. The other thing that I haven't seen much of a decrease in the amount of sleep I need since I was trained, like playing in college. I don't feel like I definitely don't do as much physical activity as I did
Mm.
when I was when it was still train every day, lift every day. I still lift every day, but on the field every day, lifting much more intense movement. I don't feel like I sleep less, really. Um, I don't know if it's like I don't eat enough, so I gotta sleep to make it up, or like I don't drink enough water or something. I really have no idea. I also might just be a person that needs extra sleep, or I don't actually need as much sleep as I think I do, which is not impossible, but I'm fairly certain it's not that.
Like you said just under 8 hours for the last week, and you feel like not that I'm
It was
judging,
like,
but yeah, you do seem a little bit tired on the eyes there. So it looks like you're not doing well with the change in time as well too. So
yeah, well, to be honest, last night I have no idea how much sleep I got. and the losing an hour. So I got whatever I got, which I don't know, and then I lost an hour. So probably not good in that way as well. But yeah, it's I don't know. Sleep is like it in my mind. The I think the easiest thing, like the best idea I came up with what you can give to everybody is block out 9 hours that you could be sleeping and go to bed at the beginning of that 9 hours. And if you wake up earlier, you wake up earlier and then just go start doing shit. But like you have the block of 9 hours. So if you gotta wake up at 7, like just go to sleep at 10. If you wake up at 5, then like cool, you have an extra 4 hours or 2 hours. But if you needed that 9 hours, then you get the 9 hours and you have that blocked off. So that would be
Yeah.
ideal. There's reality versus ideally, but if I had to give a recommendation, it's like give yourself the opportunity to sleep for 9 hours.
Yeah. So circumstances though are definitely different. Going back to the professional, like with kids, professional players, and having kids born. So when I played probably 4 years ago, actually no, it was longer than that. One of my teammates, he just had twins, and for him, like there was no chance. Like this is semi-pro, so there was no chance in the world that he was getting a good night's sleep. Like it just wasn't going to happen. So he's rocking up on a Saturday after probably having 2 hours of sleep, playing a full game, and playing well enough to still warrant a start for next week. And he's got like all these young kids. So he was about 30 odd at the time, and he's got all these young 20, 21, 22-year-olds that are like, they're full of beans and buzzing around because, well, they've got no kids and they've got no responsibilities and nothing to take care of apart from, going to bed and waking up and getting to the game on time. Whereas like when you get older, obviously there's more responsibility. And it's just funny to think about now and think about back then when he was talking about it. He's like, because he was a defender, so he's a central defender. And you know what central defenders are like. They like to give a little bit of stick to the strikers. I'm sure you've copped a little bit in your day. But he's all these kids, these younger players are going like, they're running as much as they can, and they're working as hard as they can. They're trying to give a little bit of lip back to my mate, and he's like, mate, I had 2 hours of sleep and you still haven't scored a goal. I've been taking care of kids all night and you still haven't done anything. Stop running your mouth, all right? Because it's not working for you. And I never understood it at the time, but now it's like, okay. And I'm not even playing now, but I can understand where he's coming from too, because you've got this like there's this point in your life now where it's completely out of your control, because you can't control what your child or your baby is going to do. It might be up at 2, it might have a great sleep, or you might not be able to get back to sleep once you've gone and settled them. And it's something that I know it sounds strange, but I'm kind of looking forward to experiencing, because I want to see what my body or how I actually deal with the situation. Because when you can do the David Goggins and wake up every 4 hours and all that kind of crap, but that just gives you a little bit more resilience. No, I don't want to do that.
I'm not doing that. Get that out of here.
But then when you've got little ones, like you don't have a choice. Like it cries, and I'll feel a tap from the side saying, go, like it's your turn, get up. It's like, okay, up we get, and we're going. But I don't know. I don't know what to expect. So it's just, it almost feels like it prepares me for the unknown, because you don't know what's going to happen. And I'm excited about that. Like I love that kind of shit, because for me, when it's like continuous and monotonous, it's like, yeah, it's going to happen this time, I actually probably feel more tired, because it's like I know I've got to get up and I know I've got to do this, and it's just like this continuous kind of cycle and circle. Whereas when it's just like it's a surprise, or it's like it's happening now, or it might happen later but it might not, it's like you kind of have to judge and move around it. It's probably a bit sadistic, but it's I actually enjoy it. I enjoy that unknown aspect of, especially of training as well.
Yeah, I mean it's not like there's stories about CrossFitters. I can't remember who was saying it, but like there was one year all the CrossFitters got like a 24-hour notice, like you have to be in, I don't know, California or wherever tomorrow early in the morning, ready to train. And then some people are like, ah shit, and like totally not ready, and some people were of the mindset like this is such a
Mm.
cool opportunity because I get to see what I get to do under these circumstances and what I can do with 4 hours of sleep without my normal gear, without all of the whatever, without having eaten correctly. So it is a cool thing to like figure out every once in a while, like how well does this transfer over? Like, can I do this when I'm on 2 hours of sleep or whatever? But it's not. It's like it's something where like ideally you would do that every once in a while and see where you're at, but it's not. The goal isn't to do that all the time.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. I don't think it's doable to do that all the time because I think routine is I believe routine is definitely important to be able to maintain some consistency throughout, whether it's family, whether it's training, whether it's work or business or whatever. Like you need some consistency in life, but then also like a little dose of that change. And depending on how much you classify as a little bit, like for me, I can take a lot of change. It could be pissing down with rain, or like I could have an event organized outside or doing something outside, could be pissing down with rain. It's like when you got two choices. You can either stay in the rain or you can go and find somewhere else. And if you can't find somewhere else, well, guess what? You're staying in the rain. So it's like, that's all that we can do. There's nothing else that you can kind of do. So I think it just helps people with their, like doing that side of the unknown. It really helps people with that potential for change, because like, unless you're doing Groundhog Day or unless it's Groundhog Day, something's always going to change. You know, your car might stuff up. You might need to go to the groceries or to the shops to get groceries because you ran out of something, or you dropped the eggs and you don't have any eggs and you want to have eggs. Like there's simple stuff like that, which I think is going to happen a lot considering I'm going to be on 2 hours sleep. But I hope I don't drop any eggs. Hopefully it's just all greens and that I drop that I can just wash.
Yeah, it's I mean it's kind of a parallel with training as well. Like how well has what you've done transfer over to different situations? And it doesn't have to be a situation where you're super tired or where you have like a stupid barbell or something, but it's like, can your training philosophy transfer over to mine? Or can mine transfer over to yours? Does what you're doing get you better at everybody else's, or does it just get you better at yours? So, does your training make you run faster, jump higher? Can you do a powerlifting squat better? Can you do Olympic lifts better? Can you, whatever, do all the different movement practices better? Yeah, I mean, that would be the ideal training system, that you do this one thing and it makes you better at everything else. Versus, like, maybe you train like a power lifter and it's like, well, it doesn't really make you better at Olympic lifting or how you move and this and that. There's the ideal training system makes you better at everything. So I mean, it's sometimes you got to test to see, is it really making me better at these other things? It's the same thing with technical work on field. Somebody commented on one of my posts this week. They're like, it's good to do some of your training when you're really tired, so that you can do it when you're really tired in the game. It was like, that's not really how it works. Like the point is that your training is so good when you're doing it that you ingrain these neural pathways so deeply that you could do it no matter the circumstances. The goal isn't to try and work it in every single circumstance. The goal is to build this muscle memory that's so deep that it doesn't matter how tired you are, if it's raining, if it's snowing, there's a man on your back. If you're playing with a rock instead of a ball, you can still do it. And you don't build those strict neural pathways in bad circumstances. Yeah, maybe you train on a bad field every once in a while to get the feel of a bounce of the ball, but like, it's not like, all right, let me go run 10K and then let me do my technical work. Like, no, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, maybe you want to do it every once in a while just to check in, like, yeah, can I still do it when I'm tired? But why wouldn't you just do that in the game? Because it's like, it's not the same kind of tired, first of all. That was taking your point, bringing it into like way different, far off directions, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I always think of the quote, a jack of all trades, master of none, but still better than being a master of one. Like when you can bring lots of things together and they work well with creating or adapting already learned skills to then progress them further, whether it's whether it's training in the gym to be able to get you better on the field, or to be able to get your squat higher, to be able to get your deadlift higher, or whatever it is. Like at the moment, I'm not playing, but I've always wanted, like, so I'm doing some boxing at the moment because it's something that I've always really, really wanted to do. And so for me here at home, like, I'm doing a lot of things that are definitely helping, and I'm noticing the changes with boxing at the moment. For example, like doing a lot of back work has changed the way that I punch, the way that I sit, in terms of like where I put my guard, all that kind of stuff. And maybe it's time to get Torben back on the show again, because I need to ask him a couple of technical questions, but we'll get to that afterwards. But like, understanding now that, like, initially when I first started, and I'm noticing some big connections with when I'm wired. So like, now that I've been doing a whole heap of upper body work, it's not necessarily lifting heavy. Like, I've been doing 50 pull-ups a day, and I really want to be able to get my one arm pull-up. I've got my one arm push-up, and I haven't practiced that, but because maybe I've been using it more with boxing, or I don't know, it could be that it's because of that. But I went from not being able to do something to being able to do it consistently and continuously now. That maybe there's been a crossover there, maybe there hasn't been. I don't know, but it's just ironic that it's happened once I've started doing the boxing. I've started using that kind of that upper body and using those neural pathways. And it's interesting with like the crossover as well, because like there has to be some sort of crossover. Has to be. Like, I'm not saying that because I'm punching or I'm hooking or I'm whatever else it is, it's not saying that is the reason why I can do a one arm push up, but I'm sure it's got something to do with the reason why I can do one arm push up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there were some studies that I heard Ben talking about it a while back. Like, the depth jump can increase your maximum strength. Like, it was like the number was like 14% or something, and it's not like, it's like, well, I mean, you're not lifting a whole bunch of weight, but it's like, it's still force. And I mean, I think this is the argument that people make for plyometrics a lot of times. It's like, I mean, it is force, but there's much more to it. Like you training I mean, I don't know how much rotator cuff work you've done, how much rotator, Powell, trap three, back of the shoulder, kind of rear delt sort of stuff. But the more of that you do, the more you can express the power you have, and it allows you to, I mean, pushing, punching, yeah, similar. But I mean, I mean, I think they're not dissimilar movements, and when you work at it fast, you can create force that you can replicate slow, and then vice versa. So that statement didn't really say anything, but it's sort of, that was just me saying words, I guess.
Well, no, like what you were saying with working, and I remember Torben speaking about this in one of the podcasts that we had with him, and he spoke about like working on those rotator cuff muscles instead of thinking about pressing so much, because a lot of that power does come from the back end. And having done so many pull-ups over the last month, like I'm aiming to get 50 pull-ups a day, and I've been doing more than that some days, and not feeling fatigued. But it's more of like a global movement, as well as like, so I haven't really spent much time on your power or your rotator cuffs and all that kind of stuff, but noticing that global movement of the pull, whether it's a chin up or a wide grip pull up or a single arm assisted pull up, or whatever it is, like with the double hand over or the two fingers and pulling up. Noticing doing those movements and making them feel like it's that whole area of their back. I've noticed a transfer over to boxing like you would not believe. Like, just the way that I sit in my positioning with how I'm guarded, I feel a lot less fatigued, like as in keeping my arms up, because that's half the battle sometimes. And like and I'm not a boxing expert, so if there's any boxers listening to this and they want to give me some tips, please do. However, like, noticing the correlation between the two, and maybe that's like the next thing for me. Let's work on rotator cuffs. Let's work on the back of the shoulder a little bit more. Let's work on wrists, because like my wrists, for example, they've been taking a bit of a beating because they haven't dealt with that force as much of like hitting into the pads and doing some like shadow work and shadow boxing and that. Whereas like with handstands and that, I'm fine. Like I can hold my own body weight, but like other ways, as in like flexing, extending, and the rotation of where it could potentially go with my wrist, like that's the next thing that I really need to strengthen. And I'm sure once I strengthen that all the way up and through the chain, I'm going to start to feel a lot stronger in those positions. It's just really, really interesting. Like I find it really interesting how it's carried over really, really well. Like, because of that, you spoke about it just before with the speed, for example. So a lot of the movements I'm doing here, like behind me, I've got the cable machine with the pull up and the gymnastics thing as well, like practicing the one arm chin ups and whatnot. But a lot of it is done a lot slower than what a boxing movement would be, because it's not done. So boxing is obviously, you want it to be fast and powerful and strong. That's what you want. But when you're doing the movements here, it's done slower. There's a lot more repetition done of it as well, but it's a lot slower compared to what you're doing at the gym. You don't want to, or at the boxing gym, you don't want to go slow. Like, you want it to be explosive and fast. And then obviously it's technique in that too. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's just a little bit of a side topic of like how I'm feeling with what I'm doing, and then I guess how that can kind of move back into football or move back into other sports too. Like, there's a lot of people. I mean, there's a couple of Instagram accounts I've seen that don't like the idea of working in the gym, because they want footballers to express their own potential of what they have. But if you are unable to do that because you don't have the strength to do that, it's like, well, how else can you get that strength and that power and that explosiveness? There's only so much that playing football can give you. Like, you can't. There's a lot of things missing there. You know, people talk about Pele and Maradona. Like, Maradona is an exception to the rule. Messi is an exception to the rule in some lights. Like, when he was younger, for sure. I think that there's a lot to be said for working in the gym as a footballer and understanding athletic potential 100%.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like if you're dealing with some sort of pain, it's like, well, that's, first of all, that's just going to totally cut your ability to express anything. And the other thing is, if you're weak as piss, you might just not have anything to express. Like who cares if you can, like, it's, I had a story up for a couple minutes. I took it down because I didn't explain it very well, but I think it was an old Poliquin quote that it's like a lot of coaches that are doing all of the, like, just focusing solely on plyometrics, it's like you're shining a turd. Like, like, I don't care how shiny it is, it's still a piece of shit. Like, the goal, like the strength work and the base work there is what changes you. I don't know his first name, but Coach Bold that works with Juan Carlos Simo and Dominican Republic, where Range went and visited, put up the story the other day. He was like, anybody can put a turbo on a Honda Accord, but then the question is, like, how long is it going to last? It's still a Honda Accord with a turbo. Like, you're not going to make it go as fast, but if you put a turbo on a Porsche, like, and then you make, like, that, cars aren't a great example because those high-end cars don't work very well, but it's like, I mean, shooting a cannon from a canoe, like, you could shoot a cannon from a aircraft carrier, but it's not going to work from a canoe very well. And this isn't to say, like, oh, you got to go out and squat 400 pounds. No, there's a lot to be said for how you do the movement, not chasing weight as fast as possible, because it's almost like, this is me putting a whole bunch of random things together and as they come up in my brain, but when you're dealing with, like, a tendon problem, like this, some of Keith Barr's research is that like a tendinopathy, sometimes it's just a hole in the tendon, sometimes it's like some malformed, like, instead of all your tendon stuff being like that, like in the middle, there's some that are just like running sideways, and then around it, it'll be correct. And the force will get distributed around that poor area of tendon health. So you have to work slow, and you have to actually stretch it to tell the tendon, this is how you're supposed to be. But if you're doing things fast, it's just going to work around it, and you're still going to have all the issues. So there's something to say for that, in terms of doing your movements under control, owning the weight, and not just pushing up too fast. We talked about this a little bit last week or 2 weeks ago or something. Taking it slow and not pushing for more weight, just because you could do one weight, bounce into the next weight, isn't like being able to squat 315 and being able to like really, really control 315. Like it's almost better to take a long time. You'll get more out of it. I forgot where this point came from, but it was
Well, we were talking about like in terms of the cannon from the canoe, for example. So like,
yeah. That's how you change the structure of your body. Like that movement, like that, like a full depth squat. Yeah, you could just like and like bounce out of it, and it's gonna be all connective tissue, and you're not gonna actually train all of the muscles, all of the tendons. Like you get those structural changes from controlling the weight through the range of motion and forcing everything to work in the way you intended it to. That's why sometimes exercises don't work for people, because you're doing it like shit. Like you're like, oh, I'm supposed to do 9.8% of my bench on a rotator cuff, dumbbell on knee rotator cuff. That's the structural balance number. All right, well, I bench 275, so I should probably be able to do the 30. And then you're up here like fucking just swinging it. Like, that's not going to do anything for you. Like, you're going to get more out of methodically going through 10, 12 and a half, 15, 17 and a half, 20 over the course of a year versus like just swinging this 30 around and not doing anything. It's like I think that's some like I feel like I keep coming back to this point, but like I think that's one of the geniuses of Ben Patrick is that it's like he, not that he doesn't care about the weight on the bar, but he cares so much about doing everything perfectly that it's like the weight is irrelevant. It's how can he challenge himself with perfect technique to get the stimulus he wants to put his body in a place where he can express. Like he expresses a 275-pound ass to grass squat better than anybody in the world. Like it's not, and who's to say if he would have, instead of focused on that, been like, yeah, I really want to squat 405 and just focus, like, let's squat more, throw more weight on the bar, throw more weight on the bar. Would he be able to jump as high? I don't actually think so. Like, I think it's that adaptation comes from doing the exercises the way they're supposed to be done, not worrying about the weight, worrying about the challenge and the actual tension that the exercise creates versus just like doing it like an idiot. So that's a fairly long rant, but it's hit on a lot of different things there.
it's welcomed for sure, and I think one thing that people don't understand is how long Ben Patrick spent on working through those movements. Like it's been years. It's been a really, really, really long time, and that's sometimes how long it takes to be able to do that. But again, people want things now. They want to take that pill. They want to make sure that I can get it now. So they're going to work heavier and harder on that rotator cuff to be able to get through. It's like, it's not the way that it's going to work. It's not going to happen that way. Good analogy. I saw Zach Woodward. It was a podcast he was doing with Keegan, I think. This was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And he spoke about computers, phones, for example. So like, you've got an iPhone 3 or first gen iPhone, whatever it is, and you try and upload the software that's on your current phone right now onto that old hardware, it's just not going to run. Like it's not going to happen. And so you want to be able to put bigger, better software on a piece of hardware that's shit. You're going to have lagging, it's going to break down, it's not going to last as well, it's not going to work as well. Take that analogy into your body. If your hardware is shit, you're not going to be able to upload new software to it. It's just not going to happen. You need to be able to develop that hardware, and that hardware takes time to develop. Like it's not going to happen straight away. And I could not agree more with your comment about it takes time, and you want to do it methodically, you want to do it slowly, you want to think about the movement, you want to think about what you're. Sometimes I have people come and see me and we're doing hamstring curls, for example. So whether it's like, let's just use a dumbbell hamstring curl as an example. We're lying on the floor, we put our feet together, because I don't have a hamstring curl machine here, so that's the closest thing that I've got. And I give them a weight, and the weight is not that, it's not crazy heavy, like it's enough to cause a bit of stimulus. You don't need much. And I asked them, can you feel your hamstrings when you're doing this? Like, no, I can't feel anything. Can't feel, like, there's no sense of feeling in hamstrings at all. And it's like, well, why are you doing this exercise? And why are you just doing it just to lift the weight up and down? Because if you wanted to do that, we'd do something completely different and we wouldn't be doing this. Like, we want you to focus on that feedback and that connection to your hamstrings. If you can get that feedback and that connection to your hamstrings, then your brain knows, okay, so we're using our hamstrings at the moment. We know what's going on. But if you're just trying to bang through it really, really quickly just to get it done, you don't have that as much connection to your hamstrings. You'd definitely be using part of, or a portion of your lower back as well, which could be a big reason why you'd come to me with lower back pain. And you can't understand the movement. Like, we want you to be able to move through this well. So slow the fuck down. Like, there's no point in banging out and rushing through it. Then as soon as you get them to slow down, obviously when you slow down and you create more tension, there's more there to be able to feel that movement. It's like, can you feel your hamstrings now? It's like, oh, so that's what it's supposed to feel like. It's like, yes, that's exactly what it's supposed to feel like. You're supposed to feel your hamstrings working in that motion. I think if you can genuinely feel that movement, so like, let's just say, for example, we're doing the hamstring curls and you can't feel hamstrings. Well, what do you need to do? Here's an idea. Slow down your movement and see if you can feel your hamstrings. Do you feel one hamstring more than the other? Or do you feel both equally? Do you feel that tension lower down, maybe in behind your knee or in through the belly of the muscle? Do they feel the same length? Like, there's so much I feel, and this is something that I've done over the last couple of years. It's like, you look at the way a movement is, or you understand how a movement feels. Can you feel both sides of your body? If you're doing an RDL, can you feel the length in both hamstrings? Do they feel the same, or does one feel shorter than the other? Or if you're doing a hamstring curl, can you feel that length when you're moving through? If you can't, slow down and try and get both hamstrings to come together, get them to work together. Because if not, there is a very, very high chance that you're using one side more so than the other side. But if you're focusing on the movement and you're focusing on moving through slowly and actually creating that tension in that tissue, and the length is the same, like it's the same length of your hamstrings, on both sides, chances are you're going to be doing the movement correctly and you're going to get better gains from it as well. That's what I believe.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, what's the point of the exercise? To get it done? Like, to lift more weight? Like, no, the goal is the goal is the adaptation. I mean, how can you get, like, what's the best way to get the adaptation is the goal of the exercise. Like, well, if you're a power lifter, the goal is to lift more weight. I mean, sometimes it's to add more contractile tissue. So you want to do things that are going to build more muscle, and then the goal is to lift more weight with that more muscle. But the goal as an athlete isn't to just lift more weight. Like, it's like, you want to be at the edge of your ability to get you want to push the adaptation. Like, the goal of lifting more weight is to continue to stimulate the adaptation. Like, if you just squatted 135 forever, like, you're not gonna make any more adaptation. That's why you lift more weight. But progressing that too quickly, you get away from the adaptation, and then it's like, well, you're just a power lifter doing weird exercises that aren't part of powerlifting. I mean, it's like, I was working with some of the guys I went to high school with, and one of them's like I don't know, he's tall basketball player, and he had a bunch of knee problems. The other guy's shorter, more closer to my height, and he's a runner, and they kind of do bodybuilding stuff. And one of them asked me, he's like, how much do you squat? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I hit 335 for a double a couple weeks ago. He's like, oh yeah, I do like 315. I was like, damn, that's quite a bit of weight. And then we were lifting, and I don't know what the taller guy said, but I was like, all right, we're gonna squat today. And I mean, I pinned it, like, he got pinned under like 155 or like 205 or something in a full depth squat. Maybe it was 185, 195, somewhere in that like 155, 205 range. And he was like, do I have to tell people that I only squat 155 now? I was like, I mean, you do only squat 155. You could tell people that you can quarter squat or power squat 315, but like, you can't squat 315. I'm sorry to say it, but like, and like, I the tall guy was a basketball player. Like, we were doing eccentrics, like longer eccentrics for higher reps. And like, he got pinned under the bar. Like, there was no weight on the bar. He just got pinned at the bottom of the squat. Like, this is why your knee hurts, dude. Because we did like we're through like 10 or 15 reps and like you can't stand up and all you have is the bar on your back.
Yeah.
Granted, I would push down a little bit on the way down to help the eccentric, but I only did that on a couple reps. It's like I told him, I was like, if you could, like, if you weigh 195 at like 6'6" or whatever, if you could squat 195 for 3 reps with perfect technique, I'm fairly certain you just wouldn't have knee pain anymore. Because like you just suck at the bottom of a squat, like really badly. And I mean, your low back is bad and your hamstrings are weak and all these other things, but like just get to the bottom of a squat. Like it is what it is.
I guess the same can be said for mobility side of things as well. Yeah, sure, strength training is definitely going to help with that mobility, but focusing on like what Keegan's developed, the stretch strength side of things. I've had some footballers coming in here and doing the particular exercises. Like we've got the 2 sessions, the 2 classes a week, and most times they're doing it at least 2 times a week, or they're doing it progressively throughout the week as well. And just kind of like giving themselves a bit of time to work on adapting that tissue. I had one of the boys come to me with hips that were like they were, if they were to cross their legs, they wouldn't be able to open their hips up. Like they just couldn't sit there comfortably. Progressively over 6, 7, 8 weeks, he's worked on a whole number of things. One being the pigeon pulses as an example. Like we started him super incline and then slowly progressed him through. Imagine if I just said, nah, go straight to a flat bench and just go hell for leather and do active holds and push through that pain. It's like, that's not going to be good for anyone. Chances are you're going to get some pretty gnarly hip pain because we're just pushing the needle way too far. But progressively over time, he worked from a super inclined bench to now being able to do it on the floor with his chest basically going straight out and over to the floor and being in a much better position where his foot is like close to or his leg is close to 90 degrees, whereas beforehand it was like tucked in right next to his butt. So like that progressive overload, I think can be, which it's been done for lots of things, but no one wants to take that time. Everyone wants to be able to touch their toes straight away. Everyone wants to be able to squat 330, 345, whatever it is. Everyone wants to be able to do that, but no one wants to be able to build the base to be able to have that so then they can reach that peak. It's just the way that I think we're developed as humans. We see other people doing things and we want to be able to do it, and then we try it and we get hurt and it's like, oh, squatting hurt me, so I'm not going to squat, or deadlift's bad for me because I hurt my back, or whatever other reason you've got. Well, I don't know what it is, but whatever your reason is, chances are there's a way that you could do it better. And if there is a way that you can do it better, you probably should be doing it better. And just because you can't deadlift or you hurt yourself deadlifting doesn't mean the deadlifting was the issue, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's similar to one of the things I've been learning through trial and error recently is like the foot takes a really long time to adapt. Like to get your foot to, like one of the things I had was like my left foot where I had the problem with my ankle. It's like it just doesn't, some of the, like a lot of the muscles in my foot just don't work at all. It really is like you could do like I don't know, you could try it. You could do like an arch hold where the cue is sort of so with the sort of like your heel, the front part of your heel before the arch, like if you arch, and then the ball of your foot, try and like if there was a grape here, try and like squeeze a grape and crush a grape like that without taking your heel and the ball of your foot off the floor. And if you try it on both sides at the same time, it's like if you're good neural connection with your foot, they'll both be working and you'll both feel them fine, and then maybe you'll feel some stuff up the chain. That's whatever, but it's like I would do it with my right and it was like, yeah, I feel that fine. And my left, it was like, I'm supposed to be squeezing here. Like why is nothing happening?
Hello.
Like
Hello.
there were some times I'd like reach down and like, is it still here? Like I'd like push on it and it's tough. And it's like the same thing with my toes. Like they bend, but like the right ones bend farther, like the left ones don't quite. And then if I play around with some of the ankle, like if my ankle is plantar flex, like then it's like my big toe like almost doesn't bend. Like there's some tightness and there's some more muscles that don't work. It's part of, and holy shit, it takes a long time.
Mm.
And I think it's getting a little bit better, but I don't know, man. I mean, it's it's one of those things, like, I don't care how high your arch is as long as it works.
Mm.
And right now I'm figuring out that my arch doesn't work. So I mean, I've learned a lot of things with it, fixed a lot of things with it, and it's like if you were gonna knock down a wall, you gotta like that's probably not a great analogy, but like if you're gonna build a wall, you gotta like put a whole bunch of bricks down, and like if you just like miss bricks here and there, it's not gonna work. Eventually, you gotta like hit all of the bricks, and then you have a wall. But until you've hit all of the bricks, you don't have a wall. That's a little bit like what I think a lot of things are, especially the foot, because there's just so much going on in your foot in terms of your ability to move your toes, like your plantar fascia, like your arch, the top of your foot, the ankle joint, all the different muscles that have long tendons into your foot. Foot needs more. Ooh. Yeah.
I so we've spoken about this many times before, and when I was younger, I had orthotics, which did absolutely nothing for me, and I I'm on your side of the fence now. When we had this conversation last, I was sitting on the fence like I can understand why people have orthotics, and I can understand why people don't. But now I can't understand why people have orthotics, because I've taken a long time to progress my feet to where they are now. And for me, having bunions, like I'm not gonna put my feet on here at all.
You got to pay for that.
only fans for horrible feet. Anyway, but like I've developed an arch in both my feet, and it's taken a long time. But one thing that I've noticed that's really helped with developing that arch is being able to squeeze in that position, which I'm doing right now, and actually wait for underneath the sole of where my arch is, wait for that cramp to happen, because I get that cramp that comes on, and when that cramp comes on, like my feet sit, or my arch sits in that arched position, and it sits there, and yeah, goddamn, that fucking cramp kills. Like it's just like you've had toe cramp before, you know what it feels like, but you work through that feeling of the cramp, and it's painful, but you work through that feeling of the cramp, and it's almost like the foot is realizing like, oh, this is a position that I can get into. I can get into that position. And I've noticed a change. Like I can see the change in my arch. I actually have an arch now, whereas before my feet were so flat. Like it was just like bang, flat, just horrible. And to be able to actually see that lots has changed within my feet, I know that what I'm doing is actually working. Sure, they still look like crap. Like my toenails are just destroyed. I've got calluses and bunions and all that other stuff. And for me, like bunions are genetic in our family. My dad has them. My grandmother had them. My grandfather had them. Like it was just, my sister has them really bad. Like I just got the shit end of the stick with that one. But to be able to actually develop my feet and wear barefoot shoes and walk around barefoot in a way now where like my feet are experiencing something completely new and different, that like they're no longer like just warped up and stuck. Like those was it the Japanese or Chinese women that used to bind their feet?
Chinese, yeah. Foot
Chinese,
binding.
yeah. Like we laugh at that, because it's like, why would you go and do that to your feet? It's like we do that to our feet every single fucking day, because people just wear tight shoes. People wear running shoes. I saw this guy the other day at the coffee shop. He had one of the they look like new Nikes. I don't follow it anymore. I don't know what they are, but I could hear every time he moved, there was like this psh, 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 from like his pad underneath his foot. Like he was just standing there moving from side to side. And these shoes looked like horse hooves. Like they were just tapered into one. And I could just hear like this, like they were like hovercrafts, man. You could hear the psh, psh. It's like, well, if that's doing that, what's not doing something else? What in your body is not doing what it should be doing if you've got these fucking air pockets on your feet? I can't understand that anymore. I can't understand why people would want to wear something like that. There are obviously some shoes, especially for people who are walking around on concrete all day, or and they need to wear, like, I honestly think that working in like boots, as in like laboring boots, like with the steel caps and that, probably better for your feet than wearing like Nikes or like whatever Adidas there are that are warping your feet up, because those boots are massive. Like I remember when I used to do laboring and I had to wear those boots, like my feet could actually move around in those things. And obviously if I dropped something on my toe, I wouldn't lose my toe because I had steel caps on. But like people wearing boots, I think is better than wearing those stupid shitty Adidas and Nike crap, which are just playing with your feet. They're completely destroying your feet.
Yeah, it's I wondered for a long time if I was the only one that if you squeezed your foot really hard, it cramped. And I'm glad to know I'm not the only one now that you do it. I think, and it actually doesn't happen to me so often anymore on my right foot, which never had any issues because I did it so much. Like now, like I can just about, like I'm squeezing as hard as I can right now, and it's like there's a little bit of a crampy, but like I'm pretty confident in that position because I've spent so much time squeezing like that. On my left side though, there's times where it's like I can squeeze as hard as I want. There's just nothing happens because I mean, there's parts of my foot that I'm sure I just don't like are on different wavelengths right
Yeah.
now. Like again, I'm not going to show it on camera because it's kind of I'm about to lose my toenail.
I saw it before when you were moving your camera. That was some black ass toenails, man.
Yeah, this one's about to come off. It's like it's not connected anymore. It's just there. But like so this would be like representation of my foot. When I squeeze it, it kind of like it doesn't. Some of them just don't close all the way, which is kind of weird. If I look at it, like compared to my other foot, like I don't know. The foot is an interesting thing because there's just so much going on, and there's so many different muscles and bones and tendons and like the plantar fascia, and then some people talk about all the fascia that it covers. If you want to lump that into the connective tissue of the tendons and the ligaments, it really is like I don't know. It's something that I don't know if you just I would imagine quite a few people, especially footballers that have been wearing super tight cleats. Like I've been truly about as close to foot binding as I think anybody in the US has been with how tight I wore my cleats. And I mean, I really think that just kind of deadened part of my foot and I have to rebuild that. And it's not like you're like, oh, your biceps weak, like just do the bicep curls. It's like how do you rebuild a neural pathway to the muscles in your feet that are supposed to work autonomously? Time I get.
Yeah. Could it be that you'd need to work further up the chain? So like for example, following the lines of where your toes run to, if you're like looking at the tendons on your toes, like having a look and seeing where they're running to, whether it is post tib or tib anterior or soleus or whatever, is it focusing more so on that stuff further up the chain to be able to help the toes at the bottom work, or is it working out more barefoot, or like there's probably a whole number of things that you have already tried or could try more of? I don't know. What have you done so far?
I actually think the things that have helped the most recently, um, and have kind of been on the pathway is first of all and this goes for any injury, stop doing the shit that makes it hurt more. Like and that it sounds like a joke, but it's actually a lot harder than people can make it out to be sometimes. Like you don't really know, like, is this what made it hurt? Like it's taken me like a year and a half or 2 years to figure out. And I still actually haven't figured out entirely what can make it worse and what will make it better. But like just stop doing the shit that hurts. And then like the arch holds like 2 minutes of just really trying to, couple sets of 2 minutes of just really trying to get those muscles to fire. And then this is an interesting one that this comes from the fascia people, but so you ever see people do the towel curls?
Yeah.
So towel curls with your heel elevated on the side that's working, and they're doing it really strict. So focusing on having a balance, like having 50% of your weight on the working side, 50% on the not working side, and like really scrunching like that. Like there's a huge difference between the sides for me. And it's
So
gotten a
you're
little
saying
bit better.
sitting
Standing.
down? Oh,
You're
standing. Okay.
standing. Yeah. So you're standing, half your weight on one foot, half your weight on the other, heel up on the working foot, and just like scrunching that towel, just absolutely scrunching it. And then beyond that, like doing little hops is helpful. I think you do need a little bit of. I think the farther you get away from your hips, the more of a little bit of a plyometric load you need. Like it responds better. Like your hips, like you don't really need the plyometrics like that. Your ankles, you probably do need to, on your way back to full performance, you probably do need to start at little baby hops, and then you can go to bigger hops and single leg hops, and eventually you can do things like the Maasai jumps where you just bow, 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 full expression. But I mean, it takes a long time to get there, and you can't do that at the expense of the other training. Like you have to be at a point where you can do that. But I mean, that's obviously the ultimate goal of being able to do that with your ankles. So and then just like moving it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things, but yeah, I've been trying to take a little like a spiky ball and kind of roll out the bottom of my foot with it and see if you can stimulate it a little bit like that. But this is me experimenting and seeing what works.
Well, that's what it's going to be anyway, isn't it? Like it's going to be an experiment. It's not like what works for one person is going to work for the other person. It might be something completely new or different. Comparing the two together, it's never ever going to be the same. There might be similarities, but it's not going to be the same. And I think that like that's right now is what you're doing with your feet is what Ben's done with his knees. Like it's slow progression. That's what it is. And it's going to take time, and it always takes time. Like, and good things take time. You can go and get like an injection. You can go and get surgery. You can go and do those bounding plyo stuff first. I actually am going to go out and say every single person, and I've had a lot of people who have come to me and told me that they've had cortisone injections. I've never heard of one person having the cortisone injection last for longer than, maybe 6 to 8 weeks. Like, oh, it feels great now. And I'm like, sure. Yep. It's only a matter of time before that.
Just wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Band-Aid's going to rip off, man. And then that scab's going to be open and the wound's going to be bleeding again. And then you're going to need to put another Band-Aid on it again. And then it's like, oh, we've got to do it again. Got to do it again. I never understood why. Well, actually, no, I do understand why people go for cortisones, because they think that quick fix is going to help it, and they haven't. The exercises that they've been doing haven't been helping them with their foot pain or with their ankle pain. It's like, well, what fucking exercises are you doing? And clearly they're not working because there's no intention behind doing them. Or if I just do my ankle circles with the band, that's going to help. That's going to bring back like the range and no pain that I had previously. It's like, no. Are you doing anything to load up that ankle to get it stronger? Maybe, because like you can do that banded stuff. Yeah, it's great to just get a bit of band work going, but it's not really doing anything for what's more important, which is getting that position or that part of your body stronger. Did you ever think of that? And people go, no, none of that worked. And they did it for 2 weeks. It's like, well, do you want something to change? You think it's going to change in 2 weeks? Like, you have to spend time on it. You can't expect it just to get better. And I can almost guarantee if you spend time methodically, like you said, doing particular exercises to help with knee, ankle, hip, shoulder, elbow, neck, back pain, and you think and focus on the exercises and you do them continuously, you don't overload them, but you do them continuously, and you can recognize what you're feeling and how you're feeling, and do I push myself a little bit more here, do I taper it back, or whatever that is. I can guarantee you that in the 2 to 3 weeks that you're doing them, you will definitely get better than if you're doing all those other bullshit exercises where it's like just move that part of the body, or just do your back flexes or your hip, like whatever exercises you're getting given to do. If you can actually put intention behind your movements and think about the movements you're doing, like you want more dorsiflexion because your ankle has been feeling, you may have injured your ankle as an example, but you want to be able to get more range into that ankle. If you're not putting intention behind your movement or behind what you're wanting to get out of doing the exercises, nothing's going to change. Like, it won't change because you've got no intention behind actually getting a result from it. You just want to do it because you think it's a means to an end. It's not. It's not. There's so much more to it. It's so frustrating hearing that. Like when I used to play, and I'd see the same person time after time after time get injured, hamstring injury, ankle injury, calf injury, foot injury, plantar fasciitis. It's like, what do you think is going wrong? Oh, just always get injured, or just never did they say I wasn't strong enough. Never. It's like, you are not strong enough. Your body's not strong enough. That's why you keep hurting your foot. That's why you keep injuring your hip flexor. That's why you keep coming back and doing a hamstring. Sure, there's a bit to do with like the mental side of things, but a lot of it has to do with like, dude, you need to strengthen your body. If you are not strengthening your body correctly, like, that doesn't mean go to the gym. Doesn't mean go and lift copious amounts of weight. It means take your time and move through those ranges and maybe get a different part of your body or a different range within your body stronger, so then you don't have to worry about coming back and being worried that your quad's going to tear or your hamstring's going to tear or you're going to get that tightness, that stiffness. It's like, load yourself up in those positions safely and appropriately, and probably more than likely you're going to have some really, really good benefits happen from that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, what is your, again, like back to what we started with, like, what's your intention? Like, are you doing these exercises for rehab, like just to get them done? Like, is that what you think how this works? Because it's not. Like, the goal isn't to do them. The goal is to get the adaptation. It's like, well, yeah, but I can RDL 140 kilos and I still pulled my hamstring. It's like, well, what does your RDL look like? Like, what's actually working when you do your RDL? Like, is it just your low back doing everything? Like,
Yeah.
like, do you really feel your hamstrings there? Like, do you actually have the mobility in your hamstrings to get flat to the ground with your back? And like, and do you feel like your hamstrings are gonna tear when you're doing your RDL? Because then I know you're actually getting an adaptation in your hamstring. Like, if you don't even feel the stretch, you're like, I've done RDLs that are too heavy, and I know that it feels nothing like when you do an RDL with the appropriate weight to train your hamstrings. It might as well be two different exercises. There's a threshold for everybody. Mine, I don't know, last time I did one too heavy my threshold was something like 275 pounds. Like, below that, like, 225 would just smoke my hamstrings. 275 just like felt globally difficult. Like, it was like the only adaptation here is me, like, the biggest adaptation is me holding this heavy weight in my shoulders, not my hamstrings, my posterior chain. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, the bodybuilders talk about the mind muscle connection, and it's like, I feel like I've been bringing Mike Isatel up a lot, Dr. Mike, whatever, Renaissance Periodization. He was at on Elite FTS podcast with Dave Tate, and I thought this was a awesome analogy. He was talking about powerlifters versus bodybuilders. He's like, yeah, if you've ever been a powerlifter working out with the bodybuilder, so maybe you're doing tricep push downs and the bodybuilder rolls up and puts 100 pounds in the pin or whatever and does 20 like immaculate reps, feels the tricep every time, control the eccentric, really squeezes at the bottom, and then this fucking power lifter is like, well, I'm not going to get shown up by a bodybuilder and puts up 120 pounds and does 10 that look like he's just like doing lat pull downs in front of him. Yeah. And everybody else in the gym knows that looked like absolute shit, except for the powerlifter who did it and thinks that he did more weight. It's like, well, who do you think is gonna have better development in their tricep? And who do you think is just gonna be tired and a weak powerlifter after that? Like you're chasing the adaptation. It's I mean, it's absolutely like you don't just do the exercises to get them done. You do the exercises for that reason. And it's super lame because you don't need as much weight when you do that. And it's people don't like it.
I think there is one thing that we haven't really touched on, and it's like, so with body weight exercise, we've been talking a lot about loading up the body. And one thing that I've noticed from a lot of the training that I do, so for example, with RDLs, like if you can't, and I'm fairly confident that there are a lot of people out there like this. If you can't do a body weight RDL, I'm talking about no weight, it's just you hinging over into your body weight position. If you cannot find your hamstrings with just your body weight, so just hinge over, poke your ass out, see if you can find your hamstring. If you can't do that with no weight at all, what makes you think you putting weight on the bar with the kettlebell, with the dumbbell, is going to be better for you if you can't even do it with your own body weight? Like, I think that's how you can ingrain and build that connection between that part of your body. Same goes with whatever squats as an example, and how we're doing the movement. Like if we're doing an ATG squat, how you're doing that movement, what should you be feeling when you're doing that movement? You're dropping down, and it's a little bit different from a RDL because there's the difference in load is completely different, because when we're doing an RDL, like it's basically the top half of your body that you're lifting, although it's the same with the squat too. But how are you lifting that movement? How are you moving through that movement? Are you doing it well? Like, are you doing it slowly? Is your chest staying up? Can you feel, because like whenever I do like an ATG squat and we're sitting up tall, I find like my lower traps, that helps me keep up nice and tall, so that way I don't tip over and fall over, and I can actually push my legs out further, I can sit up taller. Like I'm looking for that sort of stuff when I'm doing those movements. So then that way, if I do load it up, I know that I'm going to be in this position, I'm going to be sitting up nice and tall. I'm not just going to drop down like a sack of shit and bounce out the bottom and come back up. Which same goes for that bodyweight RDL. If you can slowly move on down and you can feel that length in your hamstrings, like you said, you can almost feel like it's just hamstrings. It's like it's ripping, feels like that tension on your hamstrings. Chances are you can probably do that with a little bit more weight. But if you struggle to do that with body weight, what makes you think you have the right to go and do it with weight on a barbell or weight on a dumbbell or kettlebell or whatever it is? And obviously ego plays a part, plays a role. But if you're injured or you're not getting the results you want, I think that there's two very good reasons to drop it right down and to just give body weight a go. For me, I've noticed some incredible benefits with just body weight exercises. Even if I've got lower back pain, like if my lower back's a bit stiff, I'll hinge on over into a RDL just so I can light up my hamstrings a little bit. Magic. Pain is just like it's disappeared because I'm getting that feeling back into my hamstrings, which is what I want again. And some people just don't realize that. They don't recognize that. They think like, let's go and lift some weight. Let's go and put some weight on the bar. I don't know. That grinds my gears, man. That really grinds my gears.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you have to be able to find, like a lot of people really struggle to be able to keep the position in the back to find your hamstrings in an RDL. But once you can find that point where it's like, all right, this is as far as I can go without, like, I like the cue, and this has worked for a lot of people, of like, if you lose tension on your hamstrings, like then you've done something wrong. Like you absolutely should feel them the whole time until the end, and then feel them again on the way back up. Like I know people, like if you got horrible hamstring mobility, like your back will start in this good position, and then it's like down, you're like, oh my God, my hamstrings. And then you're like, I should go down farther. And then it turns into that. And they're like, yeah, I don't feel my hamstrings anymore. It's like, yeah, because you needed to stop here. Like this is this is really bad. Like this is, I mean, I really have seen people that needed to stop here. Like your hamstring mobility is so bad, but like you're not working your hamstring mobility anymore. Now you're just working on like your low back in a bent position, like a slightly bent position. You're not getting what we want anymore. Like it very much is like once you can find your sticking point, the purpose of the weight at some points is almost to pull you into a deeper stretch. And if you can't, this is one of the reasons I also I think a strong low back is one of the most important things for mobility, because it's like, well, if you want to load your adductors in a seated good morning, you have to be able to keep your low back flat. If you want to load your hamstrings, you got to keep your back flat. If you want to squat deep, you got to keep your back flat. Not that it's like we don't want to train
flexion.
Yeah, it's not keeping your back flat to prevent injury. It's keeping your back flat to keep tension on the muscles we want to keep tension on. This isn't a rounded back is bad and flat back is good thing. It's a flat back allows you to keep tension on what we want to keep tension the whole time. Maybe you could do it with the rounded back, but the point is to keep it in a position the whole time. So if you could take this too far, but if your low back is stronger than your hamstrings are tight, like then you just put the weight up and it'll pull you into position. And it's the same thing with the seated good morning. But if your low back is weaker than your adductors and your glutes are tight, then like you're gonna have a really hard time with the seated good morning, because before you get into a stretch, your low back is just gonna like say, all right, see you later. And like you're not gonna be able to load up enough weight. So having a strong low back is really helpful for all those things.
We've ticked off a lot of things here, man. We've gone through some pretty deep rabbit holes, haven't we?
Yeah. Oh, we've came out of the rabbit hole and then got into a different one and back. We've created a cave system of rabbit holes here.
That's been close to an hour. Where's everyone going to find you, Matty? And how's the soccer strength system, soccer speed system been for you?
Good. Everything is at Score Performance, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We've got some quality players on it now, going through both of them, some academy players across UK and the US, and some pretty high level pros in England and Norway and some other countries. So if you want to train like the pros, if you want to get faster, you want to get stronger, click the link in my bio. Or you get steps that probably won't work as well as mine will, but
I'm working on those younger athletes that can't afford to hit a gym with time, or don't have the equipment or the knowledge like what I had. I didn't have that back in the day. So for me, I think the audience is a little bit different than the professionals that you're working with. So I'm working with those ones that want to become professionals. Those that want to become professionals, you can come to me. Those who are already professionals, you guys can head on over to Matt. Matt's got you sorted. All right. You guys can find me. You guys can find me at Coach Carly with the 3 I's on Instagram, and everything's in the link in my bio as well. You also get access to the free ebook, which has plenty of information there too. So check that out. And also you get access to me pretty much throughout the whole 6 weeks, as well as the 3.5 hours of content and everything else that comes with it too. So thanks for listening to the episode, guys. I think there was a lot of good knowledge in this one here. So let us know what you think. Follow us on Spotify. We're on Apple as well. Matty, we're still on Apple.
I think we're everywhere.
Everywhere. There you go.
Everywhere. Uploaded on YouTube. Yeah, leave us a rating, a follow, all of those things, and download Steph's ebook. I would, but I can't read. So, all right, everybody, we'll catch you next week.